Hi, it's Kimberly with Knit for Brains. Thank you so much for joining me today and for subscribing to my channel. So excited. Today I'm going to touch on something a little bit different, a little bit exciting. I'm going to show you how I made this really cool vest from old recycled dresses from the 80s. This is a weaving project. So I know some of you aren't into weaving, we're just into crochet, but I'm going to show you how we can take some of those old scraps of yarn and little tiny tidbits and make things like this. Okay, so now some of you know that not only do I crochet, but I also knit, and I started weaving. And I did an episode a few months back on my Ashford Knitter's Loom, right, that looks like this. And I love this thing. I absolutely do. And I'm going to start doing some more videos on this because this is a very affordable way to get into weaving if that's something that you're interested in. This guy here was just about $200. So I know it's probably a little bit more on the expensive side. But some of the looms that you start out with, they take up a lot of space and you could be looking at over $1,000. So this is a great deal. And I'm going to show you, we're going to start doing some more videos on how to use these and the different projects that you can make on these. This one was actually done on a floor loom, which I don't expect you guys to have. It was a rather interesting story. The floor loom, along with all these really great old books and patterns from like the 40s and the 50s, I got the whole thing for like $200. So this is actually my floor loom. This is a J loom, and it was made back in probably the 50s and 60s. The company has since closed, so it's really hard to find any instructions on this. But I got this and all these great books and tools for $200. I'll show you my tools. This is for the roller, so I got that. And then these are all the tools I got. So I've got my beaters and I've got extra treadles. And so it was a really great deal that I couldn't pass up. But again, this is really big and I don't expect you to have something like this. But I also did get 2 yarn thrifts right there. So just alone, that is worth the cost of admission. Okay. So for this project, I had used, this is some yarn that I had picked up through Artisanthropy, and you guys actually remember when I did the unboxing of this. This is a linen yarn by BC John Lino. See, I keep my yarn bands in here and I write my notes in here so I know what I did and projects and things like that. This is a little bit of the extra that I have left. This is what we call the warp. So the warp is what goes, if you will, north and south, or the long ways of your project. And then what you go across is called your weft. So your warp, right, is warped by your weft, which typically goes east and west. Okay, this is a very beginner's project, but again, I understand that, you may not be into weaving, but maybe I can inspire you to look into it. And there's lots of different looms you can get. There's little teeny tiny ones that I'll be doing some reviews on. And then of course there's the Ashford loom. And then of course there's the Behemoth that I've got, which is actually probably cheaper than some that you'll find. But anyways, so I wanted to just show you because I was really excited and it's all about yarn and that's. So a Mobius wrap has this crisscross of fabric in the front. And so if you know what a Mobius is, it's one continuous, like eternal band. It just continues on itself. So this is actually a Mobius wrap that I made. This was actually one long, huge piece of fabric. And then what I did was I just seamed it and cut it along the back and then sewed it together, making this. And then I took the little bit of extra and I sewed it on and I made this collar, which comes down on both sides and it kind of crisscrosses in the front. I'm in love with this piece. I think it's so cool. Now, this might be way outside your comfort zone, and I totally get that. I mean, not everyone is into this stuff, but I was really excited and I wanted to show you the technique that I used. So there is an ancient Japanese form of weaving, and it's called sakiori. And sakiori, very simply said, means that you take something that was old, such as old garments of clothing or table linens or things like that, and you make something new, which is as good or even better than the original garment. So back in the day, the 30s and the 40s, the Japanese women, they couldn't afford to buy new garments. So they would take old kimonos and tops and things like that, and they would shred them into strips, and then they would weave them into something new, thus coming to the art of Sakari. So that's what I did here. So what I did, I used this linen because I wanted to use mostly natural fibers, at least for the base. So I used this, which was a linen yarn that I found at Artisan Throppy. So this was a linen that I found at Artisan Throppy. And then what I did was so cool. I went thrifting with my son up in Melrose, up in Los Angeles area. And I found these, gaudy old dresses from the 80s, but they were 100% silk. And that was the thing. I was looking for something that was 100% silk because it just flows better. And I really wanted true garments. So I found this dress, this awful dress with this peplum waistline. Okay. God love the person who wore this. All right. I found this. This is 100% silk, size 6. I'm never going to be wearing that. Okay. I also found this really pretty skirt. You know, I liked the pattern, really not kind of my thing, but I loved the pattern, right? And then I even found some old men's silk ties. As long as they're silk, that's all that matters. So I got this, and I even found a pair of silk pajama bottoms. Okay, so the idea with all of this, and I even found a skirt and a dress, which I'm going to show you here in a second. So the idea is that you take it home and you cut it or you tear it into strips. This was a very beautiful silk scarf that I had found in one of the thrift stores, and I literally tore it into these little tiny strips that look like this. Okay, this is part of my weft. And then this was this perfect dress for Mardi Gras. Not that you really need a dress for Mardi Gras, but you never know. This was another dress that I found, and again, tear it into strips, and sometimes they're different lengths and sizes. Now, because I wanted to add a little bit more dimension into my project, I also pulled out my little box of what I call novelty yarns. So these are little things I find on Etsy that maybe have some really cool different colors and different textures and things like that. And they're pretty small, right? All different colors. So I basically kind of went through here and created as I went along and found the colors that really worked for me. Okay. So that's how I created this garment. And what I did was in the beginning, I washed all of my silk. You want to make sure that you don't have any hitchhikers, you know, if you're doing thrifting, you know, little bugs and things like that. So I washed everything, which you're supposed to do. And it's okay. I'm like, you're not supposed to wash silk, but that's okay. And then what I did was I put out the warp, which was, again, this one here. And then I just warped it through. I got some pictures here that you can see what it looked like. But this is my Mobius wrap. I'm calling it like a vest, right? But as you can see, if you look really closely, you can see all the different colors and all the different variations that are coming in. Okay, I've got some novelty yarn right here. This beautiful stuff right here was part of this blue scarf, this one here. Okay, and then I would bring in some of this purple here, which was from my Mardi Gras dress over here. Okay, and then you just kind of create as you go along. The idea with Sakari is, one thing that I love is that there is no such thing as mistakes. They're all just design elements. And I love design elements because who doesn't make mistakes? We all make mistakes. I mean, I've been crocheting and knitting for the past 10 years and I still make mistakes. So I love this because it's supposed to look free form. It's supposed to have unfinished edges. It's supposed to have yarn that's kind of like sticking out. It's supposed to just be kind of free form, which really spoke to me. But I'm going to be doing more videos like this, showing you some things, but more importantly, showing you what you can do on like a smaller loom, like this Ashford loom here. I could have done this vest on this Ashford loom, but unfortunately, this is what we call the sample it loom, okay? And it only carries 10 inches across. So my limitations with this isn't so much on the length, but on the width. I can only do 10 inches. And that was kind of a bummer. So that's why I didn't actually use this one. But I am going to be making some garments using that loom. So this is my Mobius scarf that is woven, still using all of my fabrics. This is Kimberly with Knit for Brains. I'm going to be bringing more of this and, of course, more yarn, more crochet, more knitting, And I'm even going to add a podcast so we can even sit and crochet and knit and create together in real time. I'm very excited. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll include all the information here. If you're interested, along with my email, you can email me or just include questions at the bottom of the video, and I'll be happy to answer them. If you're like, why would you get into this? Let's talk about that, because this is so cool. And it's a great way to use up all your scrap yarns, because weaving uses a lot more yarn than crochet, which uses more yarn than knitting. So if you want to get rid of some scraps, this might be a good way to go. Thanks so much for watching. This is Kimberly with Knit for Brains, and I will see you soon.